Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving straight into a totally fascinating internet collision over the sci-fi epic Interstellar. Seriously, what actually happens when everyday secular film critique crashes headfirst into intense, literal, theological interpretation? Well, we're going to look at a highly charged digital debate to see exactly how modern cinematic myths become absolute battlegrounds in the comment sections. So we are starting right in the thick of it with this explosive post from sci-fi critic and storyteller Damian Walter. Notice how he used an edited thumbnail here? He literally spliced a spacesuit right onto a traditional depiction of Jesus Christ. Walter talks a lot about the ideologies driving our tech-obsessed future, and here he's using this wildly striking visual to make a super provocative point about the movie Interstellar and the secret messages he thinks are hiding in its script. But this post immediately triggered an incredibly aggressive, just seemingly bizarre barrage from a user named Kyle McLean Smith, who posts under the handle @bestape. I mean, just look at this comment. It kicks off with a movie title, totally spirals into accusations about an apostate crown and MI6, and finally culminates by declaring Walter an anti-Christian destroyer of the faith who's pushing, and this is a quote, the religious blasphemy known as AI theology. It is a massive, hostile wall of text, right? It feels completely disconnected from a normal movie review. At first glance, you'd probably think this is just digital spam. It reads exactly like the kind of random internet gibberish we've all learned to just scroll right past. But we're not going to scroll past it today. We are going to peel back the layers to uncover the really deep philosophical debate happening underneath. Because as our sources reveal, this isn't random at all. Actually, it's a highly literate, fiercely defensive theological critique of secular pop culture. So what exactly was Damian Walter claiming about Interstellar that set off this kind of explosive reaction? Let's look at layer one, the concept of Jesus smuggling. To get it, we need to understand Walter's concept of what he playfully calls Jesus smuggling. Basically, he theorizes that filmmakers and authors are secretly sneaking religious propaganda into totally secular stories. He points to C.S. Lewis and the Narnia series as, the most famous historical example of this, where you have this massive Christian allegory wrapped up in a fantasy adventure, often without the mainstream audience even realizing it at first. And this perfectly illustrates Walter's take on Christopher Nolan's Interstellar. Walter explicitly states in his post that Interstellar is a very, very obvious Christian allegory. But here's the catch. He argues that while the vast majority of the secular audience completely misses the subtext, the people who actually do notice it end up absolutely hating the movie. Presumably, they feel tricked or maybe preached to by the smuggled messaging. But wait, if Walter thinks Interstellar is secretly Christian, why is a fiercely Christian commentator like Smith attacking him for it? That brings us to layer two, the theological counterattack. The answer is a complete ideological inversion between the two men. See, Walter sees the film as subversive Christian propaganda hiding in a sci-fi skin, but Smith? He perceives the exact opposite. He views Walter's assertion and the film itself as a cynical, hostile attack on true faith. To him, it's an anti-Christian counterfeit that replaces genuine divinity with science and machines. From Smith's perspective, Interstellar isn't Christian at all. Yes, the movie is absolutely drenched in biblical motifs. You've got a savior named Joseph, a resurrection mission literally named Lazarus, and 12 initial astronauts sent out, basically like apostles. But the movie ultimately gives us a secular, humanist resolution. The God guiding humanity? It just turns out to be highly evolved, five-dimensional future humans. To Smith, this completely replaces the actual divine creator with human technology and evolution, degrading the sacred into what he so venomously calls AI theology. And honestly, this is exactly why Smith opens his comment with that specific, kind of perplexing phrase. When he types, "Oh brother, where art thou?" he isn't just letting out a random sigh of frustration on his keyboard. It's a highly intentional reference to the 2000 film by the Coen brothers. He's actively weaponizing a film that openly and proudly embraces spiritual myth to mock Walter's panic over these so-called secret allegories. Smith is essentially asking, why on earth are you hunting for hidden allegories and condemning them as manipulative smuggling when great cinematic art has literally always openly integrated deep spiritual and biblical archetypes? He's using "O brother, where art thou" as the gold standard of how a classic myth can be openly spiritualized, which totally contrasts with Walter's cynical view of Interstellar. Moving right along to layer three, spam, troll, or profit. So automated moderation algorithms are designed to see this kind of behavior purely as a violation of community guidelines. To an algorithm, copying and pasting identical insults like limey or MI6, well, that just flags as spam. Disrupting a secular film analysis with intense religious rhetoric, that flags as a troll. But if you apply a contextual, theological lens, it reveals something entirely different, and frankly, something a bit beyond the pay grade of a YouTube moderation bot. This repetition functions like a liturgical litany. It's a firm spiritual thesis that absolutely refuses to adjust its tone for secular spaces. It operates as a prophetic reclamation, actively trying to pull the sacred out of a movie that a critic is actively trying to secularize. The fundamental conflict here arises because a secular movie channel is being treated by a commenter as a literal battleground for the soul. The YouTube channel is built around looking at movies from the perspective of scriptwriting, entertainment, and pop culture. But to Smith, the artistic peak of a film isn't just some fluke of the script. It's a literal manifestation of divine inspiration. He is aggressively correcting the secular critic, injecting a fiercely sacred framework into a space that was really just designed for casual consumption. So, I'll leave you with this final thought. As our modern cinematic myths play out on screens big and small, who ultimately gets to decide what they truly mean? Is a movie like Interstellar just a cleverly disguised piece of secular Jesus smuggling to be dissected by critics? Or is it a vital theological battleground where the very definition of divinity is being contested by the faithful? Next time you see a seemingly chaotic argument in a comment section, remember, you just might be witnessing a real-time war over the soul of modern storytelling. Thanks for hanging out with me for this explainer, and definitely keep questioning what you watch.